Welcome to another session of Monetize Your Messaging, where we're helping you get clear on your message, think about the ways that you can use your message to grow your business and to help your bottom line. My name is Marie Parks, and my co-host is Jessie Honard, and we're super excited to have a special guest with us here today. This is Ashleigh Blatt, and she is one of the most inspirational, smart, awesome women that we've had the pleasure of meeting here in the last several months. And so when we started coming up with guests that we needed to have, we knew Ashleigh needed to be front and center on that list. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ashleigh.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you guys. I love it.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. And so one of the things that our audience really is passionate about is, the projects that they're working on and getting into the content creation there and getting into just developing their programs and their businesses and whatnot. But I feel like sometimes you get so caught up in that, you kind of forget to give yourself credit for everything that you're doing. You end up stuck in this hamster wheel mode. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit more about kind of what your message is to entrepreneurs right now and how you're kind of letting that message be heard.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I think the thing that I run into all the time, and I think that we do probably naturally as women or the way that we're raised, is we just don't give credit where credit is due. And especially, I think personally, women entrepreneurs, because the message is we can't have it all, or we can have it all, but not all at the same time. And I just don't think that's true. I think that we are doing it all. We are creating businesses. We are doing it with one less rib, we're, right? We're running circles around some of the men in our lives, and we're, raising families and managing households and building businesses and nurturing our clients and being girlfriends and, aunts and everything. And we are doing it. And I think, I would just love if we just took a moment to say, you're doing a great job, right? I'm doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Is it always easy? No. Is it always balanced? Quote, whatever that means. No. But the fact of the matter is you are doing it and you're doing a great job at it.
Yeah, your message is so empowering and so desperately needs to be heard because, I feel like a lot of people, probably especially women entrepreneurs, but I think a lot of us are guilty of having this idea of what it means to be successful in whatever realm that is, right? And it's if we don't get there, or maybe if we start getting there, and then all of a sudden, Jessie and I do this all the time, we push the bar a little higher.
Totally.
And never quite feel like we've got our feet flat under us. So I love what you're saying, because it's it's not like you have to keep striving. You are already doing a great job.
Right. And there's nothing wrong for striving for more. But but I think just the most important piece is acknowledging what you're doing and what you're accomplishing today as well. And in that, the crazy thing is I do work with some celebrity clients, people who are adored, people who are loved and beloved, that have followings that I dream of, right? And all of us dream of. And yet you hear from them too. They're looking to the next person and think their accomplishments aren't that great and stuff like that. And you're like, are you kidding me? Look what you've accomplished. So I think one of the ways that, just as a practice to do it, and we're told to do a gratitude practice, which I think is really relevant and important and part of acknowledging your success. But I also think as an acknowledgement practice, an accomplishment practice, write down what you did today, right? Keep track of the emails, how many different emails, how many times you multitask, did you work out, didn't you work out, were you up early, did you, all the different things that go into our day as women. I mean, it's mind blowing, right? Post that list and there's no way you couldn't be proud.
I'm kind of afraid of what would be on my list by the end of the day. I can only imagine how long it would be.
Right? And then but you know what else? Is you'd walk away and you're like, yeah, I nailed it today.
Well, and I love that too, because it's so simple. And even just the idea of saying you're doing a great job. I think a lot of times when people are like, oh, I need to come up with my message, they try to overcomplicate it and say, okay, well, it has to be like this amazing, groundbreaking new thing that's never been heard before. When really sometimes it's about getting back to the basics and saying things that are very simple, but maybe people have forgotten to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we train ourselves sometimes to ignore the simple things, like doing a great job and complimenting ourselves and complimenting the people we surround ourselves. We're like, well, no, we have to get to the next thing and do the next thing.
Right. Why is that? Right. Maybe that's where the gratitude practice comes in, where it's important. What are the things that keep me honed in here?
Yeah. And I remember something you said a couple of months ago, which was around the gratitude practice. And it stuck with me because you were talking about not just having a gratitude practice of like, okay, here are the 3 things I'm grateful for today or whatever, but actually living in gratitude and in a state of gratitude, and how that can be so much more powerful, especially when you're trying to acknowledge the great things you're doing.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest lessons. And I think for me personally, that was one of the life-changing lessons. And sure, I can create a list of what are the things that I'm grateful for, and, the roof over my head and the car in my driveway, and, that I'm able to build business and these different things. But living with your heart and soul and moving in gratitude, like, gosh, this is awesome, is a totally different feeling than writing your checklist,
So can you talk us through what that means? Like, what does that look like? How is that different?
I think that is truly the point of what people are striving for. And when those who truly live within gratitude, that's what they mean. I was trained many years ago by a top coach, and it's where you don't sweat the small stuff. It's where you have that big picture in your heart as you walk through. So the steps to get there, quite honestly, is like a lot of deep, hard work. I think it's not necessarily something that's going to come immediately, but I think it's something that comes intentionally. And maybe it's the starting of what are the things for the day, and acknowledging, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, totally. Taking those baby steps until it just becomes like a part of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I'm going to give a quick reminder to our audience that you guys are welcome to leave comments and questions as we go through. We want to hear from you guys too, and that's why we do this on Facebook Live, so it can be interactive. So chime in if you have questions. But I would love to know more about your messaging journey towards this. How did you arrive at this place, Ashleigh, where this is the message that I need to be getting out there and the movement that I want to be creating?
Yeah, that's awesome. Where does it start? I've always been an entrepreneur. I've been born and bred as an entrepreneur. And I think once I had children, I was like, how in the world am I going to do this? I'm like, it's multiple babies at one time. How did I get here? Then I had to figure out, amongst going from being a stay-at-home mom to being an entrepreneur with clients and how do you juggle it? And then nobody in the world really talks good about themselves too much. I think it's really easier maybe to be a bit self-deprecating, and maybe that's a way we connect. We're like, oh God, I gotta lose that weight too, or however, but when so if I go back to the question is how did I get here? The eye opener to me actually was with some of my clients, and I started to get celebrity clients. And here I was, if my community wasn't feeling awesome about themselves, nobody's, people relatively normal highs and lows. But then I went to the celebrity community and they still weren't feeling good about themselves. And you're like, well, at what point am I going to start feeling good about myself, right? Like, why, sure, I can have bigger business dreams and goals and ideas, but at what point will this be good? And so I think it really starts with starting now and today and making the mindset change that I'm going to accept where I am. I'm going to adore where I am, and and continue to move forward.
I love that. I love that it's not just it's great. I love that it's not just like an acceptance. It's an adoration. It's not just like, okay, this is where I am and I'm going to live with it. It's, I'm actually going to be really grateful and love where I am right now and the journey ahead of me. But, it's not about reaching that goal or hitting that bar that's going to keep moving up anyway. You're never going to reach it.
You're like, oh, God, when does it end?
Yeah.
And it's also like an internal thing, right? I mean, it's like, I think a lot of the time we're like, oh, well, I'll feel feeling good once I hit this many Instagram followers, or once I have this many dollars in my bank account, or when I have whatever it is. And the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of that stuff has nothing to do with you, right? It's external, and a lot of it's out of your control. And you're right. I mean, it's like, what can you control? Well, it's your mindset. It's your decisions that you make, and it's how you decide to think about where you are in life. And what's good about it.
Here on my end, like this past year, let me see, like it was like, oh, like page views will like help you with the exposure and the money and this and that. So like, okay, so you fight and fight and fight. And I like legit hit like 100,000 page views a month. But then it was like, wait a minute, like, hi Rochelle. But then it was like, my life didn't change. And then there was an algorithm change. And it was like, nothing in my life that I did really changed. I'm like, wait, so page views isn't going to make me feel good. Here's another personal thing is then I also gained a lot of weight this year. Legit, I gained 10 pounds and now I'm walking around, my clothes aren't fitting, like this and that. And I'm like, well, why wasn't I happy with myself 10 pounds ago? Right? And it was like, I was doing good then. I was doing, like, today I'm doing the best that I can. I'm moving with the strides. And then I look to like the people that I adore and the people that I work with and connect with. And I know that they're doing the same thing and juggling so many different facets of their life that like, all you can do is, this is awesome. You're doing awesome, like, well, yeah. So it just all comes back to you. It just all comes back to you. You doing a great job.
It's a movement.
It's a movement, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't count the number of times I've heard someone say, this person who is, a celebrity or making seven figures or just like top in their industry, whatever that industry might be, has the same mindset stumbling blocks as the people who are just starting out. And they're just experience it maybe in a different way, but they still kind of battle with this, we're raising the bar, or am I good enough, and things like that.
Totally. And the shocking thing, I think, was the celebrity thing where you have hundreds of thousands, like literally like hundreds of thousands of followers. And like, they're not necessarily making big bucks, and they are, if you're in the entertainment industry, it's not necessarily up to like you how, the next day of your business will go, right? Like, will you get that gig? You never know. They're hustling too, so there's a lot of kind of internal commotion going on, and it just comes, it's like, it just comes back to, accept who you are, where you are, and continue to push, but, go for it.
So one thing that I want to talk more about your movement, but like also from like almost a strategy standpoint, because a movement is a little different from a message. And we were actually talking with Adrienne Dorison a few weeks ago on the show, and she was talking about her movement, and we were talking about like the difference, and that it's like, it's not just a message that you would put on a website or put in an email or whatever. Like a movement is something where it's very simple, right? So like you've got that box checked, and it's also something super empowering. So it's like something that somebody could take and run with in their own life. So, have you been thinking about it a little differently? And have you been thinking about ways, I know the answer is yes, but have you been thinking about ways to like distinguish that, right? And to like help people feel that empowerment? Like what are you doing in your business and outside of it for that to happen?
Great question. So there's several different things that I'm working on. So not only is it like with my clients, it's like, it's literally, quite literally, I'm like often, let's take a deep breath. Like, look at what you did in the 6 months of time and the growth. And this is amazing. And I just got to like do that pep talk. So there's the personal one-on-one that happens like all the time. And then as moving forward to kind of keep that going, and that being an internal thing and a shareable piece that you say, the things that I'm working on. So next I'm working on something that's called the Power Squad Project. And I think that it's like, it'll be a regular email for women entrepreneurs by women entrepreneurs email community. And I think in sharing with one another our resources, the things that men are doing, how you're doing it as women, and living living in this moment as a woman entrepreneur. That's a way that we'll share and support. And I think that continues, the message and the movement continues when we see one another not as being an outsider and not as an isolated woman entrepreneur, but by connecting and seeing that other women are like us, going through similar struggles and similar advances.
Yeah, I love that, because I think it's so easy to feel like you're constantly in competition with people. And really, there's this sense of collaboration that sometimes gets lost. And it's that whole, rising tide lifts all boats thing, where we need to be that rising tide.
Yeah. It's crazy. I see like the hashtags like community over, competition and the different things. And no part of me, this might be weird, tell me if it's weird. But like no part of me thinks of it as competition, because I think that there's like room for all of us to succeed. That's my truth, right? But totally. Like there's how many women, how many businesses and opportunities, how big is this world, that I think the internet has, just created the women entrepreneurial movement, and the internet. Sound like my husband. That's what I'm saying.
We've got a little series of tubes.
Yeah. So I think that I forgot. Good Lord, I don't even know what I was saying.
I think you're right. Like there is room for all of us at the table, right? And this is something we share with our community, is all about like embracing yourself and your voice and your truth, right? And because maybe this person here is a life coach, and this person here is a life coach, and this person here is a life coach. So maybe on the surface, they seem to have the same business, but each of them has their own personality, their own way of connecting with their clients, their own message. And that means that like 2 of those 3 are not going to be right for somebody, and one of them is. Right. And so, because it's like, I don't know, it's like books, right? There's a book for everyone out there. I think I'm a big reader. Or like there's a coach for everyone out there. There's a whatever it is. Because we're all different and we all have different needs at different points in our life too.
And different perspectives. I love that. Somebody somewhere recently, they're like, is the market too saturated or something? It was a conversation. And a guy was like, Tony Robbins is releasing his second financial book, right? Like financial success book or something like that. And he's like, how many billions of books are there on financial services, or financial well-being, whatever the topic is, So, so there's always room. I saw a question, but I couldn't read it.
Yeah, can you read the full quote? It cuts off the end of it.
Yeah, I got it. It's from Rochelle, and she says, if you ladies could give a new entrepreneur any advice about finding your people, what would you say? It's a good question. Ashley, do you have any insights?
Oh, I've got an opinion about everything.
Let her rip.
I think finding your people, I think don't give up. I think go, like, where do you like to spend your time? If you like to spend your time on Instagram, then, search there and find your people and start connecting with people there. If it's Facebook groups, if it's wherever you like to spend your time, that's where your people are going to be for sure.
Right, because if you're spending your time where you don't enjoy spending your time, it's going to get old real fast.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like, your game is like Instagram and you're trying to like market to Twitter, it doesn't really make sense,
Yeah, I think also, kind of the conversation we were just having about how like there may be 3 life coaches, but you have your own unique voice, your unique message and whatnot. In owning that and being okay with that, and expressing it, you're going to naturally attract the people who are just jiving with you better. So like Marie and I are giant nerds. We don't hide that fact. And we know that as a result, we are going to attract giant nerds.
Yeah. And others, but
the nerds tolerance
for us.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
I think it's true. And then also on the point of the three coaches, and you never really know like who you're getting into or what you're getting, but I gotta tell you, there's value in all of it. If like, even if the group that you find is not really, if they're really not your people, there's still a lot to learn from them, so
That's super true.
You don't have to force it. And the coach, I mean, oh my goodness, I was coached the last Friday, I wasn't even expecting miracles to happen, and then you're like the next day, it was great. And then the next day there was somebody else who decided they were going to coach me and miracles happened. You're like, all right, just open yourself up to new people.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great point about being open to it. And one of Jesse's and my pet peeves is the ideal client avatar, which is like when it gets to the point where it's like this made up person who doesn't really exist, to the point where you're excluding people who you really could learn from and you really could connect with, and they may not be what you thought your person was, but they may actually be.
Right.
So I think it goes both ways. You're right. It's from a perspective of who you're serving as an entrepreneur, but also just who's in your life and who you're collaborating with and learning from.
Yeah. I'm from that, I would love a woman entrepreneur nerd. Perfect. I don't need any more information.
Absolutely.
And it's pizza over Starbucks. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to judge her too much.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I love what you said. It's just being open to the possibilities that present themselves, whether it's the possibility of someone working with you or the possibility of you working with someone else, or something that just happens in your life that is totally serendipitous, but ends up being amazing and and totally out of left field sometimes.
Well, that's how Twitter got started too. Did you guys hear the story of Twitter? The CEO of Twitter had created another software firm, had gotten venture capital funding, and asked the investors to spend part of the money on this new project for 140 characters, and everybody, all the investors said no, and they backed out, and he returned the money to all the investors for the first company and went forth with Twitter.
Wow.
which was like, it was like birdie.com or something like that at the time. And nobody was like, but he was like, I'm open to this next possibility, right? Do you guys want to invest? And they're like, no.
That's amazing.
In themselves right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great example. And I feel like on a personal level, like there are moments in our business, like I feel like every week or every other week, something comes up where we're like, oh, well, we didn't expect that to happen, but let's go with it and see what happens, like see how it pans out. And I think especially for new entrepreneurs who are just getting started, that can be a little scary at first because there's this need to control everything, especially if you have this bar that you're trying to reach and you're not spending a lot of time telling yourself you're doing a great job. You're just like, okay, I have to control my circumstances. Right. So being open and willing to those, curveballs is kind of, it's an interesting exercise in letting go.
Listen, the best way to go with your business is to be like, sure, of course I do that, and then you like figure it out.
It's true. Like we had to grow the list of the things that we did massively before we started cutting down, because that's how we learned, like, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, or we would like this if we just put up these boundaries or whatever it is. Right. Like we wouldn't have known.
Right.
Try it.
Totally. And like worst case scenario is you can like always hire it out, you're like,
right.
Totally. So you're like, oh, this was really fun, but I'm going to let this other expert who's on my team work with you.
Right. Love it. So you already mentioned earlier the practice of telling yourself you're doing a great job by, at the end of the day, writing down kind of everything you've accomplished in that day. Are there any other kind of practical tips or strategies for people who may not be telling themselves that they're doing a great job to kind of get into that habit and start building that practice?
Yeah, I mean, how many tips do you want? Right? Surround yourself with like positive, empowering people. Like what are you watching on TV? Is that dragging you down? Right? Like, honestly, I cut out the Real Housewives. As fun as it is to see like other women's homes who, pretend to, I don't know what they pretend to do, but like it's like, man, I just felt like I was done. I was like, it was giving me anxiety, all the fighting. I was like, I don't need that in my life. I've got like enough issues of my own, that I gotta work through. So
that's really a good point.
Yeah. And that's, and you can even go back to like your clients too. I had a client that was, I just felt it was just too much in me, and I'm a naturally positive, glasses half full person, and then constantly being around somebody who does not have that was really, 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 really draining. And I was like, we've got to change this relationship, So just being conscientious, I think, is conscientious and intentional. I think we're so busy in our lives, that we're just running. And it's very easy to do. But then at some point you got to say, at what point are we going to be intentional again? Are we going to am I spending my time the way I want to? And there's always more time in the day for the things that are important versus not. Cut the fat, right?
I hope that someone's hearing this who, and myself totally included, like you hear a lot of times where it's like, I learned this thing that we're talking about when I hit the breaking point, right? And like when I was having nervous breakdowns, or when I was like just coming back from a day of work and just like crying on the kitchen floor, or like whatever. And I don't think it has to get to that point. Like, I mean, if it does, and that can be a powerful like transformation, a powerful experience, but like there are things you can do right now before you feel like, if you just feel like a little tight, right? But not like at the breaking point, that you can do right now to change things.
Oh my gosh. So crying on the kitchen floor sounds horrible, right? And you're like, oh, God. When my husband would come home from work on occasion, and still does, and he's like, all the lights are off, the girls are asleep, and I'm just drinking wine. He's like, what happened here? And I'm like, just leave me alone, And that's the reality. We're going to have good days. We're going to have bad days. We have to have bad days to appreciate the good days. You have to have good days to like acknowledge and survive the bad days, right? Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think the daily care is the sleep, and nobody expects you to be perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect. I think this is also a thing that women entrepreneurs should and can. Yeah, we are all normal, right? Like they should and can, and this is a thing that kind of drives me crazy with what's happening. I feel like maybe it's coming to me, maybe I'm projecting it, but it's like the men's world coming at me, and I'm like, but I'm a woman entrepreneur. I am, and I am soft, I cry, I'm in the dark, this is a rough day, but that's the reality of my life, right? It's not perfect, and I need to find a business and run a business that fits who I am, not ones that includes drop off and pick up and a workout somewhere, maybe, just starting to work out again. I haven't figured out how to get dinner on the table for me and my kids, but, everyone's surviving, right?
Yeah, I love that because saying that you're doing a great job, internalizing that we're all doing a great job, creating these practices doesn't mean that it's this silver bullet that's going to mean you never have bad days. It's just a tool, and just like everything else, it's normal to have bad days and it's normal to have amazing days.
Right. And if I have a bad day, it doesn't mean that my self-worth is low and down. It doesn't mean that oh my gosh, I'm the worst person and I shouldn't make it off the kitchen floor anymore. It means I had a bad day, and hopefully tomorrow will be a much better day, and maybe I should just cut it, right? And to be truthful, right? Truth be told, that was a lesson to learn too, that a bad day at work and a bad day wasn't a thing on my personal identity, right? It wasn't I'm a bad person or a bad entrepreneur. It was just oh geez, I should have prepared for that one, or I should have done better. I'm great at putting my foot in the mouth, right? But that's real life, right?
Yes.
That's just real life. And so guess what? Now we have real businesses, so
yeah,
I love it.
I kind of love it because even on a very almost superficial level, the fact that we're doing this on Facebook Live, where it's not pre-recorded, it's not going to be all prettied up. I mean, it's going out to our audience right now because, real life is messy, business is messy. We're going to laugh and talk about things as they come to our minds because that's kind of how life is,
Yeah, exactly. It's not pre-recorded. It's not edited. It's right?
Yeah.
Take it as it comes. Oh, Lord. Maybe we should have wine with this next time.
We'd have people sign a disclaimer first.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah wouldn't like that one. She was like, don't do that. What legal issues could possibly pop up with that one?
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ashleigh, you were doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you. And it's weird and hard to hear too. Sometimes you're oh, really? Thanks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You are. And we're completely inspired by your message and your mission that you're getting out to everyone because it really is so needed. And it's so easy for us to get caught on those negative loops in our own mind, and just to kind of hear it from an outside source can be helpful in internalizing it for ourselves.
Yeah, cool. I think too, entrepreneurship, one thing that came up is like, I think right now where we are too is that like, I know I'm by myself in my office. I think that you two are as well, where you are. And it's isolating, I can get wrapped up in my head, did that come out right? Did I say that right? Should I do this and that? And maybe just part of the cycle is just stopping and connecting with other women like you guys, which is amazing.
Totally.
So questions on how to monetize the message.
Yeah. Right. So in getting your mission and your message out there, how are you making that a part of your strategic business plan?
Yeah. As a part of my strategic business, I think by creating the movement in itself is, as a strategic business plan, I think it bringing awareness and something that we connect with something that we need. And then in addition to that, that would lead you to me. And then maybe others would be interested in what else. So what else are we doing and how do we get past that? And then how do we, do what else is important to us? What are we trying? So I'm specifically trying to speak to your women entrepreneurs. How do we create additional revenue streams? How do we streamline the business and the operations? How do we take advantage of the opportunities provided to us online, right? I'm a big fan of multiple revenue streams. I don't care anymore how many page views we have, right? Because you heard my story on that one, right? That was a waste of time. Who cares, right? So finding the opportunities for the plan and then making it work.
Totally. I love that idea.
To answer.
No, it's great. Because the mission and the movement that you're starting is really, it's an entry point, it's so that people can start thinking about these things that eventually lead them to you. And I think that's really great. And a really great way to structure it, where it's not just like, okay, I need to create this message that immediately turns around and makes a profit, because that's not necessarily the core point of the movement that you're creating. Right. It's something that comes from it.
Deeper and larger. And I'm in this weird place where I spent a ton of money trying to learn everything about all this different social media channels and platforms, which is really, to me, I think social media is the new PR, right? It's a new way of exposure. And then how do you, it's more than just putting a blog post out once. But then I'm also here that it's just really super important that if I'm going to be spending my time, working away from my children and my house is a total disaster, then it's going to be worth it, and for what? For what am I doing? And it's for the greater good to lift my people up.
Totally. So, I think there's no greater way to create a following than to speak a truth that people need to hear, that's empowering, that I think that's just so endearing, right? I feel like is this the right way to say it? I'm endeared to you, or I appreciate you so much because of what you're doing. And I know that your audience is the same, right? And that's such a way to build this following that just loves you, right? Because and want to work with you, and they want to know more. And if this is the message that's out there for free, and this is just on the surface, what's there? What else? What other amazing, empowering messages do you have to convey? Especially when you could work on somebody's business one-on-one with them, or to really dig into their questions and what's going on for them.
Right. Let's cut the time wasters, right? Right? Exactly. Follow the truth. Follow what's authentic to you. Yeah. And actually, it's the thing that I love about your own messaging. So I'm going to turn this back at you, to your own horn. But it truly is. And inspiring too, the North Star messaging. That's I feel like it's just so much more powerful than like, you know, copywriters are us, or you know, like something, right? Like this is like the path that was the North Star was so important, and really, you know, if you're helping women and entrepreneurs and really get that right, you know, for them, I think that's amazing and totally endearing and attractive and awe-inspiring as well. Truly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a reason we're not talking to a bunch of copywriters on this show. I mean, we may have copywriters on at some point, but when it comes to messaging, it's deeper than that. And the copy is a part of it. But, you know, we want to talk to people like you who are using a greater message to really change their industry, change the way people view themselves, change the way people feel empowered, and even what empowerment means to them. And that is way more than just words on a website.
Yeah, it's like you're bringing the empowerment out, right? That's what you guys are doing. So it's really amazing. Love it. Can't wait to support you more.
Back at you. And it is all about relationships and collaboration and things like this. So yeah, it's amazing to talk to you all the time, but also especially in this capacity, and like to really just be able to shine a light on what you're doing. It's like really our pleasure.
Aww, so sweet. You guys are the best.
So if any of our viewers, either live or those catching the replay, want to connect with you more and learn more about your message of doing a great job, how do they connect?
Awesome. So they can, in the next few weeks, I'll be launching the Power Squad Project, which will be thepowersquadproject.com. And that's where they have, it's an email community for women entrepreneurs, by women entrepreneurs, regular emails, resources, shining the light on awesome women like you guys. And, you know, getting rid of the time wasters and the irrelevant, right? So kind of feel like it'll be the email you want to receive.
Totally. Yeah.
We're super excited.
Yes. When that goes live, we will definitely reiterate that to our audience, because I think that's going to be super well received.
Thank you.
Totally.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us and just being a part of our message as we talk to you guys about, you know, just the power that something very simple can have over a large group of people.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And those of you who are watching, if you're watching on the replay and you have questions for Ashleigh, go ahead and drop them in the comments and we'll make sure that she hears them.
All right. Thanks, everybody.